In 1995, in the heart of Norfolk, Virginia, $3,900,000 in cash vanished from General Edward H. Caldwell's private safe. It seemed impossible, locked in a steel fortress, guarded by cameras, logs, and armed patrols, the money evaporated without a trace. Before we dive into the shadows of this heist, one question lingers: how could a theft this brazen go unnoticed? Norfolk, Virginia, 1995. The city hums with naval pride, its skyline a mix of aging brick warehouses and gleaming military complexes. At the edge of the naval base, a squat, unassuming administrative building stands, its concrete facade weathered by salt air. Inside, on the third floor, is the office of General Edward H. Caldwell, a man whose name carries weight in military circles. His office is a study in order: polished oak desk, a single leather chair, a brass lamp casting a warm glow over neatly stacked files. A faded Persian rug covers the hardwood floor, its edges fraying from years of boots. The air smells faintly of old coffee and cigarette smoke, a nod to the general's late-night habits. At the back of the room, behind a heavy oak bookcase, sits the safe, a Mossler GS400, a behemoth of American engineering. 4 feet tall, 3 feet wide, weighing 1,200 pounds, it's a mechanical fortress with a dual-lock system, a 6-digit combination and a biometric thumbprint scanner, cutting edge for the time. Inside, the safe holds $3,900,000 in neatly banded stacks of $100 bills, stored in 6 reinforced canvas bags, each weighing 22 pounds. The cash, intended for a classified naval operation, was funneled through a series of offshore accounts, a murky trail hinting at bureaucratic favors and whispered deals. The building itself is a labyrinth of security. 2 armed guards patrol the 3rd floor in staggered shifts, their boots echoing down linoleum corridors. 3 CCTV cameras monitor the hallway, their grainy feeds recorded on VHS tapes in a basement control room. Access to the general's office requires a keycard, logged in a leather-bound journal at the front desk, cross-checked by a second guard. The safe's combination changes weekly, known only to Caldwell and his aide, Captain Daniel Reese. Outside, a fenced parking lot holds a dozen vehicles, each logged by license plate. Floodlights sweep the perimeter, cutting through the humid coastal fog. The money's presence in the safe is no accident. It's a product of the era's shadowy military financing, cash for covert operations, untraceable and deniable. In the mid-90s, Norfolk's naval base was a hub for such transactions, with whispers of corruption swirling among senior officers. The funds, allegedly for a Black Ops mission in the Pacific, were stored temporarily in Caldwell's safe, a decision that raised eyebrows among the few who knew. Grainy VHS footage of the naval base at dusk, floodlights flickering. Close-up of the Mossler safe's gleaming dial. A hand flipping through a logbook, signatures blurring past. General Edward H. Caldwell, 58, is a career officer with 32 years in the Navy. A widower with no children, he's known for his iron discipline and a temper that flares behind closed doors. His office is his sanctuary, a place where he pores over reports until midnight, a glass of bourbon in hand. "I built this career on trust," he once told a junior officer, "but trust is a fragile thing." Colleagues describe him as meticulous but distant, a man who keeps secrets even from allies. Financially secure, he lives modestly in a colonial-style home outside Norfolk, though rumors persist of offshore accounts tied to his name. His only vice: a pack of Marlboros smoked in solitude on his office balcony. Captain Daniel Reese, 34, is Caldwell's trusted aide, a logistics officer with access to the safe's combination. Ambitious but overstretched, Reese juggles his military duties with a crumbling marriage and mounting debts from a failed real estate venture. "I just need one break," he wrote in a notebook found later, "one chance to breathe." His colleagues see him as loyal but distracted, his eyes often darting to his phone during briefings. Reese's keycard grants him unrestricted access to the 3rd floor, and he's one of 2 people who handles the safe's weekly code changes. Victor Malone, 42, is the heist's alleged mastermind, a former Navy SEAL turned private contractor. Discharged under murky circumstances in 1990, Malone now operates in Norfolk's underbelly, brokering deals for local crime syndicates. Charismatic but ruthless, he's known for meticulous planning and a knack for exploiting weaknesses. "People don't guard what they trust," he once told a contact. Divorced, with a teenage daughter he rarely sees, Malone lives in a nondescript apartment but drives a black Chevy van registered to a shell company. Margaret Maggie Hensley, 29, is the unexpected witness, a civilian janitor who cleans the administrative building's night shift. A single mother with a sharp eye for detail, she notices things others miss. A scuff on the floor, a misaligned chair. "I don't trust quiet nights," she later told police. Her financial struggles, medical bills for her son's asthma, make her cautious but curious, always listening for gossip among the guards. Caldwell's bourbon glass on his desk, cigarette butts in an ashtray. Reese's notebook, pages filled with frantic scribbles. Malone's van parked in a shadowy alley. Maggie mopping a hallway, pausing to glance at a flickering camera. February 14, 1995, 1:45 a.m. The naval base is silent, save for the hum of generators. Guard Thomas Brennan, 26, completes his third-floor patrol, logging his rounds at 1:47. The logbook, kept at the front desk, requires his initials and timestamp, cross-checked by a second guard, Michael Voss. At 1:50, Brennan radios the control room, confirming all clear. The CCTV feed shows him passing Caldwell's office door, its keycard reader blinking green. 1:58 a.m. A faint click echoes in the hallway, unnoticed. The keycard reader logs an entry to Caldwell's office, but the guard's desk is empty. Voss is on a smoke break, a violation of protocol. Inside, the safe's combination is entered. 6 digits, followed by a thumbprint. The Mosler's heavy door swings open at 2:01. The thief, later identified as an insider, works quickly. Tools are minimal: a handheld UV light to check for security markers, a canvas bag to swap with the cash. The 6 bags of money, each 22 pounds, are replaced with dummies filled with paper and lead weights to match the mass. By 2:07 the safe is closed, the combination reset. 2:12 a.m. A black Chevy van idles in the parking lot, its plates obscured by mud. The cash bags are loaded through a side door, concealed in cleaning supply crates. The van exits at 2:15, passing a gate guard who waves it through, assuming it's a routine maintenance vehicle. The logbook later shows no record of the van's entry or exit, a gap that raises questions. Security protocols. The safe's combination is changed every Monday, logged in a sealed envelope kept in Caldwell's desk. Reese handles the process, delivering the new code to Caldwell verbally. The CCTV tapes are swapped daily at 6 o'clock, but the basement recorder has a blind spot near the office door. Guards are trained to report anomalies, but Voss's absence during the critical window goes unreported. The dummy bags, crafted to mimic the weight and feel of cash, fool the next morning's inspection. A gloved hand entering the safe's code, the dial spinning. A grainy CCTV feed of an empty hallway. The van's taillights fading into the fog. The unlocked vehicle. At 2:20, Maggie Hensley, mopping the second floor, notices a van in the parking lot. Its plates don't match the maintenance vehicles she's seen before. She jots the partial plate number, Ver 4, on a napkin, later found crumpled in her locker. "It didn't feel right," she told investigators. The guard log shows no vehicles entering after 1 o'clock, raising suspicions of tampering. The General's Journal. Caldwell's desk holds a locked drawer, opened later by police. Inside, a leather journal mentions funds that must stay hidden. The entry, dated February 10th, reads, "If they dig too deep, it's over for all of us." Was Caldwell protecting the money, or something else? Reese's panic. At 2:30, Reese is seen on CCTV leaving the building, his coat bulky despite the mild night. A guard later recalls him dropping a pen, his hands shaking as he picked it up. "I thought he was just tired," the guard said. Reese's notebook, recovered weeks later, has a torn page with the words "safe" and "midnight" scrawled in haste. Who entered the office at 1:58? Was Voss's smoke break a coincidence or a bribe? Why did the dummy bags pass inspection? And where did the van go after leaving the base? According to police reports, the theft wasn't discovered until 8 a.m., when Caldwell opened the safe for a routine check. The dummy bags were convincing, delaying suspicion for hours. The anonymous note. At 9:15 a.m., a maintenance worker finds a crumpled envelope in a dumpster behind the building. Inside, a typed note. "Check the coordinates, 36.8501, minus 76.2859. The location points to an abandoned pier 3 miles from the base. Police find nothing there, yet. A close-up of the crumpled napkin with Maggie's handwriting. Caldwell's journal, pages fluttering in a breeze. The envelope in the dumpster, smeared with grease. A map zooming in on the pier's coordinates. The pier is empty, but the note's implications linger. As police comb the base, a chilling detail emerges from Caldwell's journal, buried in a cryptic entry dated the night before the heist. If I'm found dead, look to the one who knows the tides. Who did Caldwell fear, and what did they know? The $3,900,000 vanished from General Caldwell's safe in a matter of minutes, leaving no fingerprints, no forced entry, and a trail of questions. As investigators descend on Norfolk's naval base, a web of lies, loyalty, and betrayal begins to surface. Who knew the safe's secrets, and who was willing to risk everything to keep them hidden? February 15, 1995, 8:30 a.m. The naval base buzzes with tension. General Edward H. Caldwell stands in his office, staring at the open Mossler GS-400 safe, its 6 canvas bags filled with worthless paper and lead weights. "This can't be happening," he mutters, his voice low, almost drowned by the hum of fluorescent lights. The discovery of the theft triggers an immediate lockdown. Military police cordon off the 3rd floor, their boots scuffing the faded Persian rug. Outside, Norfolk's morning fog clings to the concrete building, muffling the shouts of arriving investigators. The Naval Criminal Investigative Service, NCIS, takes charge by 9 o'clock. Lead investigator Lieutenant Karen Walsh, 41, is a no-nonsense veteran with a reputation for spotting lies in the smallest details. Her team combs the office. Fingerprint dust coats the safe's dial, the oak desk, the brass lamp. The CCTV tapes from the basement are seized, but the critical 1:45 to 2:15 a.m. window shows only static. A malfunction or sabotage. Someone knew exactly what they were doing, Walsh tells her partner, jotting notes on a yellow legal pad. The logbook at the front desk is another puzzle. Guard Thomas Brennan's entries are clean, but Michael Voss's absence during his 1:50 smoke break raises red flags. Voss, 29, swears he was gone for no more than 5 minutes. "I stepped out for a cigarette, that's all," he tells Walsh, his eyes avoiding hers. The logbook shows no unauthorized entries, but Maggie Hensley's napkin, scrawled with a partial plate VR4, contradicts the record. Walsh orders a trace on the plate, but Virginia's DMV database yields no matches. NCIS agents dusting the safe for prints. A flickering CCTV monitor showing static. Voss lighting a cigarette, glancing nervously at the camera. The napkin, its ink smudged but legible. General Caldwell is unraveling under pressure. By noon he's chain-smoking on his office balcony, his usual composure fraying. 32 years and now this, he writes in his journal that night. NCIS interviews reveal a man burdened by secrets. Colleagues whisper of his ties to a classified Pacific operation, funded through untraceable cash. A 1994 memo uncovered in archives hints at Caldwell approving discretionary funds without oversight. Was he protecting the money, or orchestrating its disappearance? His financial records show no red flags, but a cryptic phone call to an unlisted number at 11:45 p.m. on February 13 puzzles investigators. "It's handled," he said according to the transcript. "Handled how?" Captain Daniel Reese is a nervous wreck. By February 16, NCS has him in a windowless interrogation room. His debts, $87,000 from a failed condo investment, come to light, as does his wife's recent separation filing. "I didn't touch the safe," he insists, sweat beading on his forehead. But his keycard swiped into Caldwell's office at 1:58 a.m., a fact he can't explain. "I was home by midnight," he claims, but his apartment security camera shows him leaving at 1:20. His notebook, seized from his locker, contains a torn page with "safe" and "midnight" circled in red ink. "Just stress," he tells Walsh, random notes. Yet his access to the safe's combination makes him the prime suspect. Victor Malone remains a ghost. NCIS traces the black Chevy van to a shell company, Tidewater Logistics, linked to Malone's name in a 1993 tax filing. A former SEAL teammate describes him as a planner who never left loose ends. Malone's apartment, searched on February 17, is sparse. A single mattress, a burner phone, and a map of Norfolk with the naval base circled. He always said the system was rotten, the teammate recalls. Malone's daughter, Emily, 16, tells police she hasn't seen him in months. A neighbor reports a van matching Maggie's description parked near Malone's building days before the heist. Maggie Hensley becomes an unlikely linchpin. Her napkin note prompts NCIS to widen their search for the van. During a second interview, she recalls hearing a low hum, like a muffled engine, at 2:10 a.m. on February 14. "I thought it was the HVAC," she says, twisting her hands. Her financial struggles, documented in hospital bills for her son's asthma, make Walsh wonder, did someone approach her? Maggie denies it, but her hesitation when asked about Reese raises suspicions. "He was always kind," she says, "but he looked scared that week." Caldwell's journal, a close-up of the "It's Handled" entry. Reese in interrogation, his hands fidgeting. A map with Malone's handwriting. Maggie's hospital bills stacked on her kitchen table. February 18, 2 p.m. NCIS reconstructs the heist's timeline. The safe was opened at 1:58, closed by 2:07. The dummy bags, crafted with precision, required planning. Forensic analysis reveals the lead weights were industrial grade, sourced from a local supplier, Norfolk Metal Works. The supplier's records show a cash purchase of 150 pounds of lead shot on February 10, paid by an untraceable buyer. Walsh suspects Malone, whose SEAL training included logistics for covert ops. The burner phone. On February 19, a burner phone is found in a storm drain near the base. Its call log shows a 30-second call to Reese's personal phone at 1:30 a.m. on February 14. Reese claims he never answered, but cell tower data places his phone near the base at the time. "I was asleep," he insists, his voice cracking. The phone's other calls traced to a payphone near Malone's apartment. Security flaws exposed. The CCTV malfunction wasn't random. A technician confirms the basement recorder was tampered with, its wires loosened to disrupt the feed. The logbook's clean entries suggest an insider altered records post-heist. Voss, the guard, admits to occasionally skipping log checks when Reese was around. "He was the general's guy," Voss says. "I trusted him." The peer's secret. The coordinates from the dumpster note, 36.8501, -76.2859, lead to an abandoned pier, but a dive team finds a submerged crate on February 20. Inside, a single canvas bag, empty but identical to those in the safe. Traces of saltwater corrosion suggest it was dumped recently. Why leave one bag? Walsh asks her team. A theory emerges. Was it a decoy to mislead investigators? A diver surfacing with the canvas bag. The burner phone, its screen cracked. A technician examining the CCTV recorder's wires. The pier at dawn, waves lapping against rusted pilings. Caldwell's journal reveals a man haunted by his choices. "The money was a means to an end," he wrote on February 12. "But ends have a way of slipping." His fear of exposure clashes with his duty to the Navy, a conflict that leaves him sleepless. Reese, meanwhile, is torn between loyalty to Caldwell and desperation to save his family. "I just wanted out," he writes in his notebook, a confession without context. Malone's motives are colder: profit, revenge, or both. "The Navy chews up men like me," he once told a bar contact. Maggie grapples with guilt, wondering if her silence about the van endangered lives. "I should have said something sooner," she tells a friend. Twist 3, the guard's confession. On February 21, Voss breaks under questioning. He admits Reese paid him $500 to look the other way during a late-night shift on February 13. "It was just once," Voss pleads. The money, he says, came in an envelope with no name. Was Reese acting alone or following orders? Norfolk in 1995 is a city of contrasts. Proud naval tradition meets whispers of corruption. The post-Cold War era sees military budgets scrutinized, yet Black Ops funds flow freely, often without oversight. Caldwell's operation, tied to Pacific tensions, reflects a broader culture of secrecy. Local papers report rising distrust in military leadership, with editorials questioning missing millions in defense contracts. The base's guards, underpaid and overworked, are vulnerable to bribes, a fact Malone likely exploited. Archival note: a 1994 Pentagon audit flagged $12 million in unaccounted Navy funds, though no charges were filed. On February 22, A cryptic fax arrives at NCIS, a single sheet with a coded message, Tide 7-14-2. Decrypted, it points to a second set of coordinates, another pier, this one near Malone's apartment. As Walsh's team prepares to search, a chilling detail emerges. Caldwell's journal mentions Tide as a code word for a classified contact. Is Tide a person, a place, or the key to the missing millions? The $3,900,000 heist from General Caldwell's safe has left Norfolk's naval base in chaos, with a coded fax, Tide 7-14-2, pointing to a second pier and a mysterious figure. As NCIS closes in, loyalties fracture, secrets unravel, and the money's trail leads to a truth no one expected. Was this a crime of greed or something far deeper? February 23, 1995, 6 a.m. The sun rises over Norfolk's waterfront, casting a pale glow on the second pier, a crumbling relic near Victor Malone's apartment. Lieutenant Karen Walsh leads a small NCIS team to the coordinates from the fax, 36.8523, -76.2901. Divers scour the murky waters, their lights cutting through the silt. At 7:22, they surface with a sealed metal case, rusted but intact. Inside, $500,000 in banded $100 bills, waterlogged but authentic, matching the serial numbers from Caldwell's safe. It's a breadcrumb, Walsh says, her voice tight. But where's the rest? The fax's code, Tide 7-14-2, is cracked by an NCIS cryptographer. It's a reference to a naval operation, Tide, launched in 1994 to fund covert surveillance in the Pacific. The numbers, 7-14-2, correspond to a classified file in Caldwell's office, detailing payments to an unnamed contractor. Walsh's team retrieves the file, buried in a locked cabinet. It lists Tidewater Logistics, Malone's shell company, as a recipient of $1.2 million in consulting fees. Caldwell was funneling money, Walsh tells her team. But to what end? Divers pulling the case from the water. The fax, its code circled in red. A file stamped classified, pages flipping to reveal Tidewater's name. The pier at dawn, waves crashing against concrete. General Edward H. Caldwell is called to NCIS headquarters on February 24. His journal, now fully analyzed, paints a man trapped by his own ambition. Tide was my legacy, he wrote on February 8. But legacies come at a cost. The file reveals Tide as a slush fund, siphoning cash for off-the-books operations. Caldwell authorized the $3.9 million transfer to his safe, knowing it was untraceable. Confronted, he admits to approving Malone's payments but denies involvement in the theft. I trusted the wrong people, he says, his voice hollow. A phone record shows he called Malone on February 12, hours before the heist. Was he complicit or a pawn? Captain Daniel Reese cracks under pressure. On February 25, facing evidence of his 1:58 a.m. keycard swipe and the $500 payment to guard Michael Voss, he confesses. I didn't take the money, he sobs. I just opened the door. Reese claims Malone approached him weeks earlier, offering $50,000 to clear his debts. His role was simple: swipe into Caldwell's office, enter the safe's combination and leave. He said no one would know, Reese tells Walsh. The burner phone call at 1:30 a.m. was Malone's final check-in. Reese's notebook, with its frantic safe and midnight scribbles, was a record of his panic, not planning. Victor Malone is arrested on February 26 in a raid on a warehouse near the pier. The black Chevy van parked inside holds traces of lead shot matching the dummy bags. Malone remains calm, almost smug. You think this is about money? He asks Walsh during interrogation. He admits to orchestrating the heist but claims the $3.9 million was a message to expose Tide's corruption. The Navy's dirty and I proved it, he says. Only $500,000 is recovered. Malone insists the rest is gone, refusing to elaborate. His SEAL training explains the heist's precision. UV lights to avoid security markers, weighted dummies to delay discovery, and a tampered CCTV recorder. Maggie Hensley becomes a reluctant hero. Her napkin note and memory of the van's hum lead NCIS to the warehouse. On February 27, she identifies Malone in a lineup, her hands trembling. I just wanted to do right by my son, she tells Walsh. NCIS offers her protection, suspecting Malone's contacts might retaliate. Maggie's observation of Reese's fear weeks earlier proves crucial, tying him to the conspiracy. Caldwell in interrogation, his face drawn. Reese's notebook, pages spread on a table. Malone in handcuffs, smirking at the camera. Maggie pointing at a lineup, her expression resolute. The missing millions. On February 28, a bank in the Cayman Islands reports a $3.4 million deposit to an account linked to Tidewater Logistics, opened in 1994. The money is frozen, but the account's beneficiary is listed as Tide Consulting, a non-existent entity. Walsh suspects Malone funneled the cash offshore, but he refuses to confirm. Follow the tides, he taunts, echoing Caldwell's journal. The guards roll. Michael Voss, the guard who took Reese's bribe, reveals a second payment. $1,000 from an unknown man days before the heist. A sketch based on Voss's description resembles a known associate of Malone's, a fixer named Carl Dunn. Dunn, 38, is missing, last seen near the pier on February 14. Was he the van's driver, or a loose end Malone tied up? Caldwell's confession. On March 1, Caldwell breaks. Tide was my mistake, he tells Walsh. He admits knowing the $3.9 million was at risk, having overheard Malone's threats to expose the fund. Caldwell claims he planned to report the theft himself, hoping to clean his slate. I was too late, he writes in a final journal entry. NCIS finds no evidence he took the money, but his career is over. According to NCIS records, the $3.4 million was transferred to the Cayman account on February 15, hours after the heist. No further funds are recovered. By March 5, the case shakes Norfolk's naval community. Caldwell resigns, facing charges of misappropriating funds. Reese pleads guilty to conspiracy, sentenced to 7 years. Malone is convicted of theft and fraud, receiving 12 years, though his cryptic comments suggest a wider network. The tides don't stop, he tells the courtroom. Maggie receives a commendation and a small reward, enough to cover her son's medical bills. She quits her job at the base, haunted by the case. The remaining $3.4 million is never fully traced. Rumors persist of a broader conspiracy, with Tide's files quietly sealed by the Pentagon. Norfolk's naval base tightens security, but trust in its leadership erodes. Local papers run headlines, millions lost, secrets kept. The social fabric of 1995 Norfolk, already strained by post-Cold War cuts, frays further, with whispers of corruption lingering. Archival note: a 1996 Pentagon review of Tide found irregularities, but no criminal charges beyond Caldwell's case. Caldwell's ambition blinded him to Malone's betrayal, his loyalty to the Navy clashing with his fear of exposure. I thought I could control it, he wrote. Reese's desperation for a fresh start led to his downfall, his family now fractured beyond repair. I traded everything for nothing, he told his lawyer. Malone saw himself as a whistleblower, but his greed tainted his cause. Maggie, the only innocent, grapples with survivor's guilt, wondering if her silence delayed justice. Caldwell's resignation letter, typed and signed. Reese in court, head bowed. Malone's mugshot, his eyes defiant. Maggie hugging her son, a hospital in the background. The pier, now a local legend, draws curious visitors. The Mosseler safe, replaced by a newer model, sits in a museum of naval history, its dial frozen at the last combination. On March 10, a final clue surfaces. A fisherman finds a waterlogged note near the second pier in Malone's handwriting. The tide takes what it's owed. NCIS reopens the case, but the money, and the truth, slips further into the depths.